sultry September evening in 1989, over 140,000 fans crammed into the Maracanã to witness what they hoped would be another chapter in Brazil's storied footballing history. The stakes were immense.
Na presença da Copa da Itália em 1990. Ai, mas podia acontecer tudo menos isso.
Brazil, with their glittering legacy, were fighting to secure a place in the 1990 World Cup, their record of unbroken qualification hanging in the balance. For Chile, the task was monumental but tantalizing. Win in the heart of Rio de Janeiro and seal a famous upset, dethroning the Selecao on their own turf. What unfolded that evening transcended football. It became a cautionary tale of desperate ambition, deceit, and, ultimately, absurdity. The match, now infamous for its scandalous climax, serves as both a lesson and a reminder of the extraordinary lengths individuals and teams will go to in pursuit of glory. It was football as theatre, except the actors were caught out mid-performance. The build-up to the game was fraught with tension. Brazil and Chile were tied on points in their qualification group, with Brazil holding a slender advantage in goal difference. With both sides having dispatched Venezuela in their earlier matches, Brazil in ruthless fashion with a 6-0 demolition, the Maracanã showdown would decide everything. The weight of expectation was colossal. Brazil's supporters, having endured heartbreaks in 1950 and 1982, demanded nothing less than victory. Chile, on the other hand, arrived with steely resolve and the grim determination of a side with nothing to lose. From the outset, the match bore all the hallmarks of a classic South American encounter. Tempers flared, tackles flew in at shin-splintering heights, and the referee's whistle was in constant use. Chilean left-back Hector Puebla set the tone early, leaving his studs on Mauro Galvão's knee within minutes.
Aí você tem o replay do lance, olha lá. Mas pegou mesmo, o chileno deixou a sola da chuteira e prensou ali o joelho do Mauro Galvão. Não teve risco. Ele dá o reinício com o...
Brazil's forwards, the electrifying Bebeto and the experienced Careca, responded with guile and skill, probing Chile's defense relentlessly. Yet, for all their dominance, Brazil struggled to break through. Chile, meanwhile, defended as if their lives depended on it, which, given the stakes, they probably felt was close to the truth.
E já experimentou, mostrou logo pro goleiro, aqui ele veio.
It wasn't until the second half that Brazil finally found the breakthrough. A sweeping move involving Dunga and Bebeto sent Careca clear.
Enfiou para Careca, partiu Careca, abriu o lance, perna esquerda, bateu, vai entrar!
The Napoli striker skipped past Puebla and fired home, sending the Maracanã into raptures. Brazil were ahead, and Chile's dreams of Italia 90 were beginning to fade. For the visitors, there was no choice but to attack. They needed 2 goals, but each time they ventured forward, Brazil's defense, marshalled by Ricardo Gomes and Mauro Galvão, stood firm. And then, on 68 minutes, the match took an extraordinary turn. A flare arced down from the stands, trailing smoke as it landed near Chile's goalkeeper, Roberto Rojas.
Ai, mas podia acontecer tudo menos isso. Tudo menos isso. Foi atingido por um rojão ali, fogos de artifício, o arqueiro Rojas. Foi atingido realmente, tudo menos isso. A torcida se comportou tão bem, desde a chegada do Chile. Não houve nada. O torcedor está aí, gritando, incentivando, mas tem sempre um infeliz para fazer o que não deve. Olha só, foi atingido duro, existe até ali. Olha só, tem sempre um infeliz que devia ter ficado em casa para fazer uma estupidez.
Agora é evidente que o Chile vai tomar partido disso. Olha lá, o Roca não precisava sair carregado, está saindo carregado, é capaz de pedir para ele evitar para cancelar o jogo. Olha aí o que eles estão fazendo. É lamentável que tenha acontecido isso.
Olha, numa dessa o Chile pode até... O Chile dá a impressão...
What followed was a display of such calculated theatrics that it would make any drama school proud. Rojas collapsed to the ground, clutching his head.
Muito sangue, ele foi atingido realmente, nós até o Pelé e Chico estavam imaginando que a coisa não seria tão dramática.
Blood appeared to stream from a wound on his forehead. Chilean players rushed to his side, gesticulating wildly at the referee and the Brazilian crowd. The atmosphere, already electric, now fizzled with confusion and outrage. As Rojas was carried off the pitch by his teammates, cameras zoomed in on the scene. The Chilean players marched down the tunnel, refusing to continue the
Aí o
match.
Ricardo Teixeira, o Eurico Miranda ao lado dele, o presidente da Federação do Estado do Rio de Janeiro, o ex-presidente.
For those watching at home, the incident seemed straightforward. A Brazilian fan's reckless act had injured Rojas and forced Chile's hand. The referee abandoned the match, and the narrative appeared to right itself. But as the dust began to settle, questions emerged. One key detail had been missed in the chaos. The television cameras had captured the flare landing, but it hadn't struck Rojas. In fact, it had landed several feet away. The footage left an uncomfortable question hanging in the air. If the flare didn't hit him, where had the blood come from? Enter Paulo Teixeira, a Brazilian photojournalist who would ultimately unravel the entire charade. Teixeira, stationed pitchside, had seen the flare land and felt something was amiss. "I missed the shot," he later recalled, "but I knew it hadn't hit him." Working alongside fellow photographer Ricardo Alfieri, Teixeira developed a set of photos that revealed the flare's path, showing conclusively that it had not touched Rojas. As the images were developed and shared, the tide began to turn. What had initially seemed like an open and shut case of fan misconduct now appeared to be something far more sinister. The Chilean camp's story started to unravel, and Rojas' dramatic exit from the field came under scrutiny. Brazilian officials, armed with the photographic evidence, took their case to FIFA. The revelations that followed were staggering. Rojas, under pressure from the mounting evidence, confessed. The blood on his head was not the result of the flare, but a self-inflicted wound. He had hidden a razor blade in his glove, cutting himself at the opportune moment to create the illusion of injury.
Lo único que yo me acuerdo que la jugada estaba en la mitad de la cancha. Sobre eso sentí una bulla detrás de mi arco muy grande, como que el público estaba festejando. Di vuelta mi cabeza hacia el lado izquierdo y una luz muy grande que se me venía encima. Traté de hacer el quite y de ahí caí al suelo y no supe nada más.
It was a premeditated act, orchestrated in the Chilean training camp, with the involvement of team officials, including manager Orlando Aravena and team doctor Daniel Rodriguez. Their plan was as audacious as it was cynical: force the abandonment of the match, blame the hostile Brazilian crowd, and potentially secure a replay at a neutral venue.
Son las 19:20. Después de una paciente espera de casi 20 horas, Roberto Rojas accedió a conversar con nosotros en la casa donde permanece junto a su familia, aquí en la localidad de Villarrica. Roberto Rojas, ¿quieres aclarar algo? ¿Han surgido dudas respecto de tu verdad? Algunos dicen que no es realmente lo que tú has dicho, otros dicen que aquí se acaba todo. ¿Cuál es lo cierto de toda esta situación,
Bueno,
Roberto?
para mí absolutamente se acabó el día que yo hice la declaración, o sea, ayer, en el cual manifesté lo que realmente Roberto Rojas había hecho, con quién lo había hecho, quiénes fueron las personas que participaron en esto. Roberto Rojas no culpa y no quiere castigar a nadie, como mucha gente cree que estoy haciendo, quizá a lo mejor un poquito de polémica con las personas que estuvieron al lado mío, pero no es eso. Mi intención no es eso, mi intención es sacarme todo el peso que yo llevé durante 9 meses con una situación que realmente fue incómoda para todo el mundo.
The fallout was swift and devastating. FIFA, armed with photographic evidence and Rojas' confession, handed Brazil a 2-0 victory, confirming their place in Italia 90. Chile were banned from the 1994 World Cup qualifiers, a punishment that left an indelible stain on their footballing reputation. Rojas, once hailed as a hero, was handed a lifetime ban from football, a sanction that would not be lifted until 2001. The manager, doctor, and several senior officials were also punished, their roles in the debacle laid bare for the world to see. Reflecting on his actions years later, Rojas admitted his regret. "I made the wrong decision," he said simply. "I paid the price." Yet his role in the affair remains a subject of fascination. Here was a professional athlete at the peak of his career who not only agreed to participate in the scheme but carried it out in front of a global audience. The desperation that led him to such a decision is both tragic and extraordinary. For Brazil, the events of that evening were a bitter pill to swallow. While they secured their place at the World Cup, the victory was overshadowed by the controversy. The Selecao, a team synonymous with footballing brilliance, were dragged into a scandal that was not of their making. It was a moment of farce in a stadium that had seen more than its fair share of drama. As for Chile, the incident remains a dark chapter in their footballing history. The ban from the 1994 qualifiers not only derailed their international ambitions, but also tarnished the reputation of an entire generation of players.
Bebeto tenta a finta, vai pro chão, o Puebla sai com ela, o árbitro paralisa, e o Puebla depois que tocou, que o Bebeto caiu, ele pisou.
Fernando Astengo, the team captain, has protested his innocence to this day, insisting he had no knowledge of the plan. But the damage was done, and the scars of that evening linger on. The events of September 3, 1989 serve as a reminder of football's capacity for both beauty and absurdity. It is a sport where moments of brilliance can be overshadowed by acts of desperation and deceit. And yet, for all its chaos and controversy, football endures, a reflection of the best and worst of human nature.